Hello, this is Keith, welcoming you to the 1911th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline the 4th of July 2013. The readers this week are Janet, Kathryn, John and Keith, with Ian on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Ferdinand Bouillon, Harry Breur, and is performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include the Green Sin Bin and Family's Fury over new probe into bus driver's death. Special news items this week. Firstly, the Macular Disease Society. The Enfield Macular Disease Support Group meets on the second Wednesday of every month from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Trinity Church Hall, Gentleman's Row, Enfield EN2 6AN. The meetings are open to anyone affected by central vision loss. Carers are welcome too. For further details, please contact Alan Newson on 020 8886 5659. That's Alan Newson on 020 886 5659. The Home Library Service is part of Enfield Libraries and provides a delivery service to people living in the borough who are unable to visit a branch due to age, mobility, disability or their caring responsibilities. We visit each of our members every 4 weeks. The service is free and we will tailor it to your taste. For visually impaired people, we can provide books in large print or recorded books on CD or cassette. We can also bring music on CD or films on DVD for people with some vision. Members are free to reserve particular items. If you would like to join the Home Library Service or know someone who would, please call 01992 716 010 and we will arrange for the Community Access Librarian to visit you. I'll give you that number again. It's 01992 716 010. And now a message from Enfield Talking newspapers about our AGM. The annual general meeting of the Enfield Talking newspaper will take place on Monday the 29th of July at 7:30 p.m. at the Park Avenue Disability Centre. All listeners are invited to attend. Thanks very much. That's from Philip. If you are experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and she'll be pleased to help you. That's Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. Now Janet will read the first item of local news.
Plans to improve recycling in Enfield have drawn criticism after it was revealed homeowners who fail to put their rubbish in the correct bins could have them taken away. Enfield Borough Council will introduce a pilot scheme to 40,000 homes next month to clamp down on people who persistently misuse their recycling bins. The council says pushing rubbish in the wrong bin costs the borough tens of thousands of pounds each year and hopes to crack down on serial offenders with a 3-strike policy that could lead to the removal of their recycling bins. Council research suggested that in between January and March 2012, 1,900 households put out a bin contaminated by the wrong rubbish at least once. The result of this means more recycling will go to a landfill site or be incinerated at a cost to the authority. So far, residents have helped to save Enfield Council £2 million via recycling. After a first offence under the new scheme, refuse collectors will put a sticker on the bins in which homeowners have put the wrong items. A second lapse would mean residents receive a warning letter, with a third and final incident possibly resulting in the household's bin being removed altogether. However, the scheme has attracted criticism from residents who have questioned the new policy. Adrian Bishop-Leggett of Kenmere Gardens and Vice President of the Federation of Enfield Residents and Allied Associations said, "I can see all sorts of problems with this scheme and I'm not sure how it is going to work. In the current state, bins are not lockable. This could lead to anyone off the street putting something different in the different bins, which results in the issue we face now." Furthermore, Mr Bishop-Leggett, who has been involved with the FERAA for more than 30 years, believes education is key to improving recycling. He said more people needed to be educated when it comes to recycling. Not everybody in Enfield knows what each bin means. Jonathan Russell of Elm Park Road said, "I think it's good the council is trying to stop the contamination of bins. However, it feels as it could be shooting itself in the foot with this proposed policy." Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said the actions of a small minority of people not following correct recycling practices meant the council spent thousands of pounds more on landfill each year. He said our residents have made a huge contribution to recycling more and helping the council save money, but a small minority is hampering these efforts, and this pilot scheme aims to stop that from happening and help us save money and increasing our recycling rates. We're wasting thousands of pounds a year at a time when we're operating under significant financial pressure. This scheme is about educating residents and encouraging them to help us increase our recycling rates. We estimate that the vast majority of people will respond positively to the initial reminder. We want to give people every opportunity to get their recycling right. But this isn't a laughing matter. Contamination is costing all of us tens of thousands of pounds a year. We need to take action to deal with the people who willfully refuse to recycle properly. Every penny we spend on disposing of rubbish is money we can't spend on other vital frontline services.
The investigation into the death of a bus driver whose charred remains were found under a railway arch in Palmer's Green 3 years ago will continue. Despite family fears, the police wanted to shut down the case. The latest police report into how 53-year-old Kester David died in the early hours of July the 7th, 2010, was shown to his family recently. His brother, Roger David Griffith, has revealed that the family were appalled by the report, which failed to give any answers and left his mother fearing the case would be closed because many leads had been left to go cold. Speaking to the Advertiser, a furious Mr. David Griffith said, "My family are devastated that the Commissioner had ordered this investigation and they have now been told that they are winding it down, even though all avenues have not been investigated. It indicates the level of seriousness my brother's death has been deemed by the police." Originally, Kester's death in Brimfield Lane was treated as suicide by officers, despite the fact that a coroner returned an open verdict and a forensic expert said that they could not rule out involvement of another party. After Kester's mother made a formal complaint of racism against the officers involved in the original investigation, a report published by Inspector Brian Casson revealed a litany of failings in the initial investigation, including ignored witness statements and wrong timings recorded and given to the coroner, as well as a catalogue of other errors. In response, the Met Police's murder unit was told to reinvestigate Kester's death. However, after an article about the latest police response appeared in a national newspaper on Sunday, the family have been told that the investigation into the 53-year-old's death will definitely continue. Mr. David Griffith added that the unanswered questions surrounding his brother's death still torment the family, who remain convinced that Kester of Russell Avenue, Wood Green, was murdered because he was threatening to expose a criminal business deal. "My family welcome this change of direction as we so desperately need to find the killers of my brother," he said. "He was my 80-year-old mother's first son, and she is still in bits about this. We all are."
Patients accessing accident and emergency services at Barnet Hospital can face a 16-hour waiting time before being transferred to a bed, a health watchdog report has found. The report from the Care Quality Commission, which we'll call the CQC, has raised fears the hospital will not cope when the A&E department at Chase Farm in the Ridgeway, Enfield, closes in November. During a visit on May the 7th, the CQC found that many patients were happy with the care they received from staff, but that a shortage of beds led to long delays. The report says that A&E was extremely busy on the day of inspection and that an ongoing refurbishment had led to a shortage of beds, meaning 50 patients had to wait more than 4 hours to be treated and discharged or admitted to the wards. Alev Kazimoglu, chairwoman of Enfield Council Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Panel, said the inspector's findings were unacceptable. "It is clear that staff continue to work very hard, but there simply aren't enough resources to meet need, and this is even before the loss of A&E at Chase Farm, she said. The government should take the council's advice and immediately halt these changes to our hospitals. The report also said that the Barnet and Chase Farm Hospital NHS Trust provided information showing that in the month before the CQC visit, 108 patients had remained in A&E between 10 and 16 hours, and a further 24 patients had experienced waiting times of more than 16 hours. The government's target is that 95% of patients should be seen within 4 hours. Kieran McGregor of the Save Chase Farm campaign added, "All the evidence shows that the decision to downgrade Chase Farm is deeply flawed. They are not in a position to remove any services." Following the planned downgrade of Chase Farm in November, patients will be redirected to Barnet Hospital in Wellhouse Lane and North Middlesex Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton. A Barnet Hospital spokeswoman said, "We are building a new A&E department in preparation, and the building works have had an impact on services. This has meant some delays for less urgent cases, while we prioritise those in most need." From November, the A&E department will have 22 qualified nurses on a day shift, an increase of 57%, and 16 qualified nurses on the night shift, an increase of 45%. We will have 9 consultants in post, an increase of 44%.
A multi-million-pound project that will protect hundreds of homes from flooding began recently. The £15 million Salmons Brook Flood Alleviation Scheme was given the green light by the Council in November, 12 years after 192 houses in Montague Road, Edmonton, were flooded in October 2000, when torrential rains deluged the borough. The work to protect 1,400 houses in the borough will see both banks of the brook along Salmons Walk between Plevna Road and Montague Road raised so that heavy, fast-flowing water can be contained within the river. As well as the shored-up banks, a new drainage pipe will be built under Montague Road to ease the flow of floodwater under the road, which, it is hoped, will stop the drains along Montague Road from overflowing, as they did in the year 2000. Banks of earth will also be built around Montague Recreation Ground, and they will be used to contain and store floodwaters. More floodwaters will be stored in Grange Park to allow the residential areas of Edmonton to drain before more water from Enfield Chase arrives in the Montague Road area. The works have gone ahead despite fierce opposition from members of Enfield Golf Club in Old Park Road, Enfield, who fear that using part of the course as a floodplain will see the club go into terminal decline. The Environmental Agency expects the works to be completed in 2 years' time. The multi-million-pound improvement started with Edmonton MP Andy Love cutting the first piece of turf from the Montague Road site. Steve Whipp, Flood and Coastal Risk Advisor at the Environment Agency, said, "We're pleased that this scheme to significantly reduce the risk of homes flooding in Edmonton is underway and will improve the local environment for people and wildlife. The works will take until the spring of 2015 to complete. We will liaise closely with the local communities to minimise any inconvenience and maintain public access to parts of the open spaces where we are not working. For residents living near Salmons Brook, the scheme will reduce the risk of flooding from a 1 in 20 chance to a 1 in 75.
Got a nice picture here of 5 hunky men in shorts that are going on a charity bike ride. A maths teacher is swapping cloak and gown for a snug-fitting lycra in a charity mission, which will see him riding in triumph down the Champs-Élysées, Paris. Will Luck of Parsonage Gardens, Enfield, is tackling a gruelling 300-mile bike ride that will take him on a 4-day cycle trek from Crystal Palace in South London to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, accompanied by his team Enfield Wednesday. Their efforts have already raised £9,000 for the North London Hospice. Will, along with his uncle Richard Stopps, was inspired to take on the challenge after the hospice took care of both his father and his grandmother at the same time last summer. Will's father, Chris Luck, was 56 when he passed away in September after battling prostate cancer and being cared for by the hospice, while Will's 81-year-old grandmother, Phyllis Luck, was fighting cancer of the esophagus. After Will and his father spent some of the last months of his life watching Team GB triumph on two wheels on the roads and in the velodrome during the Olympic Games in London last year, the teacher decided to raise as much money as he could for the hospice. The staff were fantastic. The whole time it was so peaceful and such a relaxing place, Will said. It really was a retreat, and I was struck by how pleasant the place it was. His pupils at Oasis Academy Enfield in Mollison Avenue have thrown their weight behind the Cycles Charity Challenge and have organised a talent show as well as a non-uniform day to raise extra funds for their mission. It has been really nice to see them get involved with it, Will told the Advertiser. They responded well to the assemblies I gave on it, and despite the daunting prospect of saddle sores and chafing, Will is not nervous about the upcoming mission and is raring to go. I'm more excited about it now, he added. We've done our training and I really want to get on with it now.
Rising demand for school places will be eased in Enfield after a school celebrated the opening of its new building. St Michael's Church of England School in Brigadier Hill will have 2 reception classes from September, and its new £6.2 million site was launched with a blessing from Peter Whitley, Bishop of Edmonton. Over the next 7 years, school places will double from 210 children to 420, and the new building is intended to ease pressure on the waiting list for Enfield school places. Head teacher Kathryn Mann, who is leaving at the end of term, said, "The expansion has made a huge difference to the school. The new facilities mean that children have more space for dance, drama, PE and IT. We are delighted that we can offer so much more in these improved surroundings." Deputy head teacher Jan Matthews, who will replace Miss Mann next term, said, "It was brilliant. The children sang wonderfully, and now the building is completed, we can provide much needed places for pupils." Councillor Ifer Orhan, Enfield Borough Council's Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, said, "Expanding our primary schools is not just about providing extra classrooms. In St Michael's case, we have used the opportunity to make substantial improvements." London Diocesan Board for Schools worked with Enfield Council, which provided £5.9 million of the funding, with the government providing £300,000.
Enfield Borough Council is taking a bold new step in an attempt to tackle youth crime, writing to unruly youngsters' parents. As part of its New Chance scheme, starting this month, council officers will send letters to the parents of anyone under the age of 18 who is suspected of committing low-level antisocial behaviour. Persistent bad behaviour could also result in legal action being taken against the offenders. The council says the scheme is the first of its kind in the UK and has the backing of the Metropolitan Police. Councillor Christine Hamilton, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Community, Wellbeing and Public Health, said the scheme aims to give parents a short, sharp shock by revealing what their children have been doing. She said many parents simply don't know that their children are misbehaving for a variety of reasons, chiefly because those committing the bad behaviour do it well away from where their mums and dads are at the time. When we've told people about their sons or daughters' bad behaviour in the past, they've been absolutely furious, and the punishment they've meted out has been a brilliant deterrent from future naughtiness. We think a combination of angry parents and incredibly sheepish children who are caught bang to rights is a great recipe for encouraging better behaviour amongst our young people. We very much want parents to engage with us and other services that can help them and their children change their ways, and this scheme is a great way of making that happen.
An athletics club has moved to Enfield after being unfairly forced out of a neighbouring borough because of grossly inflated council rent. Barnet and District Athletics Club vacated its headquarters in New Barnet after failing to come to an agreement with Barnet Borough Council over a lease renewal. The club, which has more than 300 members and has been based in Victoria Road for more than 30 years, claims the council wanted to increase its rent by an unaffordable 25%. But Barnet Council says the increase was dependent on the outcome of an asset review due to be carried out later this year, and says it offered the club a 12-month price freeze. Last weekend, the sports club moved to Enfield, taking up the offer of a ground share with Saracens Amateur Rugby Club at the Bramley Road Sports Ground in Southgate. Athletics Club President Steve Harris said, "We're obviously disappointed to be leaving a ground we have been at for more than 3 decades and that we have spent money developing over the years, but at the same time we're looking forward to the future at a club where we actually feel welcome." Since taking over the fairly derelict civil defence building in about 1980, the club has spent money building new changing rooms and keeping the facility up to date. For the past 15 years, though, the club has been forced to sublet the building to Nightingale Nursery to subsidise the cost of the rent. And despite being in discussions with the council for almost a year over the lease, which expired this month, the club's committee decided it could not wait on the possibility of a proposed increase. Mr Harris said, "You get more of a chance as a young person trying to get into sport in places like Hackney and Enfield. In Barnet, it's all voluntary and there's no council support. We're pleased in a way that it has worked out with Saracens, but there is anger and frustration at being kicked out of a venue that has been our home for the past 30 years. Barnet Council confirmed Nightingale Nursery has accepted a 1-year rent freeze, which could fluctuate pending the outcome of the asset review. Barnet Council Cabinet member, Councillor Robert Rands, said, "It's disappointing that Barnet and District Athletics Club have chosen to leave their clubhouse in East Barnet. When the club's lease was due to expire, we agreed to freeze their current rent pending the outcome of our strategic community asset review, which is looking at new ways that community organisations can work together with the council. However, the club made the decision to leave. We hope to continue working closely with them, even though they have decided to leave the borough."
I've got another picture here of 20 more young people, boys and girls in various costumes. 2 of them look like Pearly King and Queen. Very attractive. And the story is that young dancers are perfecting their footwork for the Dance World Cup, which is being held in England for the first time. 39 pupils from the Morgan Aslanoff School of Dance in Tynekill Lane, Palmer's Green, are ecstatic that they have been selected to take part in the annual event, which this year is being held in Brighton. The dancers, who are between 5 and 19 years old, took part in a pageant to mark the start of the contest. Throughout the week, they will compete against dancers from around the world. They will have a chance to show off their talent in stage dance, including tap, jazz and ballet. School principal Michelle Asloff said, "We've been busy fundraising to organise a coach to get everyone there. Now the big event is here, we're all very excited. The pupils have been putting in lots of effort rehearsing. I'm really proud of all of them. It's a fantastic achievement for them to get this far, and I'm sure they will all have a lovely time."
A housing company responsible for building more than 1,000 new flats along the North Circular Road has donated a plot of land to residents. The scrap of green space at the corner of Warwick Road and Tewkesbury Terrace, near Bounds Green Road, is owned by Notting Hill Housing, but is too small to build on, and the firm has offered the overgrown corner for use as a community space. Bowes Ward Councillor Alan Sitkin has launched an impassioned appeal to residents, calling on them to help him transform the ugly scrap of land into a miniature landscaped park that could offer people a retreat from the traffic fumes of the A406, which, as the Advertiser reported last week, is the most polluted road in London. I have asked people on the Bowes and Bounds Connected Forum to come forward to make a friends group for this small space, and already people are interested in doing what they can to help, said Mr Sitkin. Admitting there was considerable anger amongst residents over the number of properties the housing company had been given permission to build, he said, "This is a step forward. We still need Notting Hill to do a lot more, but this is something we can use to make the environment better. This is a first step towards rebalancing what they should do for the community. I'm glad that they have made this gesture, and I hope there will be many more." Mr Sitkin said that at this stage the green space needed a lot of attention to transform it into a tranquil spot. "We need to knock it into shape, but once we do this, it could be a lovely retreat for people," he added. "We could turn this into a nice picnic space or a green gym. We could have bedding plants and flowers. It is quiet and it is off the main road." He said that because the area was derelict and overgrown, once a friends group was set up, the first port of call would be to ask Notting Hill for some funding to help improve the small area. To get involved in breathing life into the pocket park, contact Mr Sitkin by emailing cllr.allen.sitkin@enfield.gov.uk.
Double Olympic equestrian champion Charlotte Dujardin said she felt humbled after hearing a street in Enfield is to be named in her honour. Miss Dujardin, who was born in Enfield, won the individual and team dressage gold medals at the London 2012 Olympic Games. After a postbox was painted gold in her honour outside Enfield Town Station last year, a new street in Ponders End will now also be named Dujardin Mews. The development will be built on land to the west of Oasis Academy Hadley in South Street. Miss Dujardin said, "I am overwhelmed to have a street named after me. My roots are in Enfield, and now I will always have a presence there." Enfield Borough Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "Charlotte was one of the many stars in Team GB during the 2012 London Olympics, and as she is an Enfield girl, we are delighted we're able to honour her in this way. She was part of the fantastic Team GB, which set the entire nation's pulses racing during the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and we've been waiting to find a suitable road to name after her. We're enormously proud of her achievements, and she is a terrific role model for young people in Enfield."
A building site manager has been shortlisted for the National Pride in the Job Awards after winning a regional prize. Bradley Coker of Galliford Tri Partnerships triumphed in the opening stage of the National House Building Council competition for his work on The Block in Watermill Lane, Enfield, earning him a Quality Award in the London and South East category. He will now join 450 other Quality Award winners from across the UK, competing in the second round for a chance to win the national prize. The award recognises the personal achievement of UK house building site managers in creating homes of outstanding quality. We have now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.